Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nikos Angelidis, and this is News for You, broadcasting live from Athens. In a couple of hours, US President Barack Obama will be in Boston to attend the memorial service for victims of the Boston Marathon bombing amid a manhunt for two suspects seen on video taken before two blasts struck near the finish line. Meanwhile, the FBI arrested a Mississippi man in connection with letters sent to Obama and two other officials that were believed to have contained the deadly poison ricin.
Images of the faces of two men with backpacks who were acting suspiciously around the time of the Boston Marathon bombings are under FBI's microscope. A department store surveillance camera caught an image of at least one of the men leaving a backpack near the finish line, according to authorities.
Images of two men, there are two photographs that we're talking about here, are being circulated among law enforcement agencies around the country. And those agents and law enforcement officers are being asked to be on the lookout for these people because they are possible suspects, possible we emphasize, and of high interest.
The photographic evidence adds to physical evidence already gathered at the scene, including parts of a pressure cooker probably used in the two bombs. Meanwhile, US President Barack Obama is to address an interfaith service in Boston.
Our hearts are with the families of the victims, and now we send our support and encouragement to people who never expected that they'd need it. The wounded civilians who are just beginning what will be, I'm sure, for some of them, a long road to recovery.
Two Greek athletes who participated in the Boston Marathon and experienced the nightmare described the difficult hours after the twin bombings.
Τραγική ιστορία. Ξεκινήσαμε με τους καλύτερους Ιωννούς να συμμετάσχουμε στον ιστορικότερο μαραθώνιο του κόσμου και δυστυχώς αυτή η ενέργεια η οποία κανείς δεν μπορεί να τη χαρακτηρίσει, ένα αποτρόπαιο έγκλημα που είχε στόχο να σπείρει το θάνατο, αμαύρωσε αυτή την ημέρα.
Δεν μπορούσαμε να επικοινωνήσουμε με τα παιδιά που ήταν στον τερματισμό και ενώ ξέραμε ότι εκείνη την ώρα τερματίζουν, λίγο εκεί πέρα είχαν πέσει γραμμές, δεν μπορούσαμε να επικοινωνήσουμε, αυτό είναι λίγο που μας αναστάτωσε.
Meanwhile, tensions were high in Washington at both the White House and Congress after letters sent to the U.S. President and the Republican Senator of Mississippi, Roger Wicker, were found to contain suspected traces of poison ricin.
At that point, the investigation led us to incarcerating and picking up an individual that we believe is possibly connected to the letter that was sent to Justice Court.
The FBI said there was no indication of a connection between the ricin letters and the Boston bomb attacks, but they reminded Americans of anthrax mail attacks in the wake of the 9/11.
An entire town has been devastated in Texas. A deadly explosion and fire burst through a fertilizer plant, creating a catastrophic scenery. There are fears for 70 people dead. Authorities have announced that there's an unknown number of people killed, while only 5 deaths have been confirmed. The explosion occurred late on Wednesday, injuring more than 100 people, leveling dozens of homes and spreading toxic fumes throughout the community.
A massive explosion at a fertilizer plant in the small Texas town of West left an undetermined number of people dead, sent dozens more seeking medical attention, and prompted a wide-scale evacuation in the community. The blast had leveled dozens of homes and damages other buildings, including a school and a nursing home.
I walked through the blast area. I searched some houses earlier tonight. Massive, just like Iraq, just like the Murray building in Oklahoma City. Same kind of anhydrous exploded, so you can imagine what kind of damage we're looking at there.
The blast sent a massive fireball into the sky. Residents are being evacuated because officials are worried that another tank at the facility might explode.
At this time, we do have confirmed fatalities. The number is not current yet. It could go up by the minute. We're in there searching the area right now.
The air in the town remains thick with much smoke after the explosion. The area around the blast has been littered with shards of wood, bricks and glass.
A lot of people that I'm sure are not going to be here tomorrow. So your prayers, this is a very, very strong community. We will bounce back. This is probably the most devastating thing that's happened to this community, but you know, we're going to build back.
There was no immediate official word on what sparked the explosion, as emergency personnel assisted victims and doused the flames.
Let's go now to ERT World's reporter in the U.S., Katerina Thanasoula, for some latest information on the terrifying story that shook the country for a third consecutive day. Katerina, first it was Boston with the deadly explosions on the marathon. Now we have fears for over 70 dead in Texas, in the Texas explosion. Do we know the number of dead yet?
The number of the dead people is not confirmed, Nico. As the sun rose today over west in the state of Texas, the scope of the small town's devastation came into full view. A gruesome, bloody scene, homes flattened to rubble, and firefighters still battling a raging blaze. We know 5 to 15 people are confirmed to be killed in the explosion, among them 2 emergency personnel. But according to the city's emergency management system director, the casualty count could spike to 60 or 70 as the search continues. More than 160 people are wounded at this time. 5 of them are in intensive care, 2 in critical condition, 3 in serious condition. The blast is being treated as a crime scene until investigators determine whether it was an accident. According to the Waco Police Department, nothing at this point indicates that was due to criminal activity, but they are not ruling that out at this moment.
That's what, Katerina, that's what I was going to ask you. It doesn't seem to be an act of terrorism. Is there any suspicion, though, for any wrongdoing on the case?
At this time, no. We don't have such an information. The White House, however, is monitoring the situation through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is in touch with state and local authorities. Don't have such an indication, Nikos, at this time.
Okay. Now, Katerina, can you give us some more information on how the authorities are trying to evacuate the premises?
Well, authorities already have evacuated residents of the town of 2600, a small town. Early this morning, state troopers in gas masks manned roadblocks, waving away cars coming off the highway. The Federal Aviation Administration instituted a flight restriction over the town. Authorities have closed schools for the rest of the week and urged everyone to stay away from school property. Also, a storm system heading into the area could worsen the situation. According to meteorological reports, winds will be gusting up to 35 miles per hour through the afternoon and can move the direction of the fire, which is a big concern for firefighters working to contain the blaze. Lightning and hail could damage those efforts as well and endanger people in the area who've fled their homes. You know, they're homeless. At this time, the Texas National Guard has sent 21 troops from a civil support team to monitor air quality near the blast, and the American Red Cross has sent teams from throughout the region and is working to find shelter for the evacuees.
Katerina, thank you very much for the important information, and we hope everything is well and the dead as low as possible as a number. Now, let's go to our newsroom where Elena Levizou has all details on the latest political developments here in Greece. Elena, Prime Minister Antonis Samaras spoke this afternoon at the Euro-Mediterranean Partnership for Investment.
Yes, Nico, and he mainly spoke about matters of energy. Mr. Samaras sent a message to Europe to contribute to the swift and secure declaration of the exclusive economic zones, not only for Greece, he said, but for the other Mediterranean European countries. These energy resources are mainly under a European jurisdiction in the area, he said, and this is a wealth that Europe must develop and exploit.
Now, Alexis Tsipras, on the other hand, spoke at the annual economic conference of Hellenic entrepreneurs.
Yes, Mr. Tsipras said that the memorandum must be replaced by the national plan for the recovery of the country. This plan would include, Nico, Mr. Tsipras said, the plan for the national regeneration, the need for, he stressed the need for a stable tax system, and he also said and promised that the VAT must go back to 13% as it was before, and the basic salary must go back again to the 751 euros per month.
Elena, PASOK's Evangelos Venizelos spoke at the Organization for the Unemployed, known as OAED.
And of course, unemployment and recession was the main topic of the discussions there. Mr. Venizelos presented a plan, a PASOK's plan, for the fight against unemployment. Now, he said that PASOK has a plan to support and maintain 500,000 existing jobs and also to create another 200,000 jobs, new jobs. Now, Mr. Venizelos will also speak this afternoon to Greek businessmen in the center of Athens.
Last but not least, a very important development comes from Germany. It was a day of voting on Parliament for the approval of a bailout plan for Cyprus, and the news are good.
Yes, the German Parliament approved the bailout package with a great majority. 487 MPs voted for the bailout, 102 against. Now, before that, before the voting, the German Finance Minister, Mr. Schäuble, spoke to the Parliament and warned that if Cyprus were to go bankrupt, then this would greatly affect other Eurozone countries. He also said that the very high long-term unemployment in Europe, especially of the young people and in certain European countries, is a catastrophe, Nico.
Elena Levizou, we thank you very much. Now, police have reportedly arrested 2 suspects in connection with the shooting of more than 30 Bangladeshi workers in the Nea Manolada area of the Peloponnese during a dispute over back pay. The incident occurred when some 200 workers allegedly demanded 6 months' worth of unpaid wages from their employer in the region of Ilia. The pickets became involved in an argument with 3 Greek supervisors, at least one of whom fired at the migrants with a shotgun. Local reports said that as many as 30 workers were injured in the incident, with several of them said to be in a critical condition. Police are looking for 2 more suspects. Joined by relatives of the victims of gun violence, U.S. President Barack Obama blamed politics for the failure of gun control legislation in the White House. At the same time, he urged voters to send a message through their votes that they want stronger gun laws.
U.S. President Barack Obama angrily blamed politics at the White House for the failure of gun control legislation. Escorted by relatives of the victims of gun violence, he urged voters to show through their votes that they want stronger gun laws.
A minority in the United States Senate decided it wasn't worth it. They blocked common sense gun reforms, even while these families looked on from the Senate gallery.
Some of the relatives of gun violence victims couldn't restrain their tears.
Even without Congress, my administration will keep doing everything it can to protect more of our communities. We're going to address the barriers that prevent states from participating in the existing background check system. We're going to give law enforcement more information about lost and stolen guns so it can do its job. She's a gun owner.
Yesterday, the U.S. Senate rejected the plan to expand background checks for gun buyers, despite the events of December 2012 in Newtown, which resulted in 12 girls and 8 boys being killed, all aged 6 or 7. The plan to extend background checks to online and gun show sales failed on 54 to 46 vote.
But the fact is, most of these senators could not offer any good reason why we wouldn't want to make it harder for criminals and those with severe mental illnesses to buy a gun.
The votes were the result of weeks of intense negotiation over Obama's proposed gun restrictions. The defeat of the background checks amendment could doom the biggest package of gun legislation that Congress has considered in 2 decades.
Admission to Greece's museums and archaeological sites is free today on the occasion of World Heritage Day. World Heritage Day is designed to raise public awareness about the diversity of cultural heritage and the efforts that are required to protect and conserve it. The theme for today is the heritage of education. Several events have been organized at the Archaeological Museum in Athens, the capital's Epigraphical Museum, the Archaeological Museum of Patras, the site of Mistras, and at Delphi. In business news now, the Athens Stock Exchange records losses of 0.19%, closing momentarily at 921.15 points. And these are the top stories for now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and stay tuned on ERT World.